Alright. What's up? It's me again, Freedom Pulse, here with my submission for East 2 Chronicles Plus to No Glitches Allowed. And just like in the first game, I start time when I select easy difficulty, and gonna skip through some cutscenes by mashing immediately afterwards, so I'll get to the story then. And I will be starting up in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so East 2 takes place literally immediately after East 1 ends, where at the end of East 1, Adal reads all 6 books of East, and he is he's taken up into the sky, transported to this floating island, which it turns out is actually the Lost Kingdom of East, which if you actually read the books in the first game, it talks about all this cataclysm and this destruction and dark magic that happened that caused the Kingdom of East to become lost in the first place. There's a lot of legends about it that you can talk to NPCs about. Turns out the kingdom actually still exists, it's just been floating in the sky, and Adal is found by the local residents who are still residing there, namely a Lilia and her mother, I believe, Benoa. And they take us in, help us recover from our wounds in fighting Dark Fact in the first game, and we now are kind of like, well, you know, we should kind of figure out why we're here, what we're even doing in this situation. But we should also pay back the kindness that these people have given us in allowing us to stay in their home to recover. So Benoa gives us a letter, is like, hey, so Lilia doesn't know this, but she's actually very sick, and I want you to take this letter to the town doctor, and so that he can make a medicine to help her. And as soon as we get to the home of the doctor, it turns out that the doctor was actually in the mines that are near the town, and the mines actually had an earthquake that caused a collapse, that the doctor is now completely trapped and is unable to get out. So Adal, being the very brave and chivalrous, adventurous person that he is, offers to help out. So in thanks for our offer, the doctor's assistant gives us some money, which we will then use to come over here. We will buy a wing, which just like in the first game allows you to transport. However, in this game you have a little more options to where you transport. You can go to any town that you have visited. And we also buy a short sword. Something very different in this game as opposed to the first game that is worth noting is that this game only requires you to have a sword in order to really start your adventure. The first game you had to have at least one of every set of equipment, or one of every piece of equipment. This one is only the sword. And as a result of this, we'll actually be doing the entire run up until about 2/3 of the way through the run without any sort of defensive equipment on at any given time, which will make a later upcoming section a lot more dangerous. However, with enough practice, it's not too big of a deal, and it's still a lot faster in order to do so, because the game only gives you 300 gold to start. You don't have enough to buy any equipment. And theoretically, you can get a short sword for free from the guy who's standing in front of the entrance to the mines if you go up to him without having one. However, that's slow because there's some more dialogue associated with it, and just rather not deal with it. Just rather go through here, buy the sword, and just kind of go crazy in dealing with everything else. However, again, it's not too big a deal, especially here in this first area. It's no problem at all. What we have to do here, our objective, of course, is to go into the mine and save the doctor. However, before we can do that, we have to get some levels, because we are unable to fight the enemies in the mine at this current point. So what we need to do is we need to grind to level 4. Once we grind to level 4, we'll be able to fight some... we'll be able to go into the first area, which is more of a shrine area that's kind of right before the mines. We'll be able to go into that area, fight the enemies within to be able to grind to level 6. Once we hit level 6, we will be able to beat up some stone golems that are standing over here on the side of the map that are blocking an item that allows us to gain magic, which magic will be something that is very, very important in this run and will be used throughout. Once we hit level 6, once we get magic, we can then go into the mine and we can make our way through. And also we had to talk to the town elder in order to get that door open, otherwise that dude wouldn't have let anyone in, because he's like, hey, the monsters here they're actually called demons in this game. In East 1 they were monsters, in East 2 they're demons, because they come from the darkness that is within the source of magic in this world. Something to note is, in the first game, whenever there's a text box that appears that's actually a framed text box, you can just hold the circle button on the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3 controller to skip through the text. However, anytime you see text actually appear up on the screen without a border, you have to mash through it, which is a little obnoxious. It's not too big of a deal, but it's something that's worth noting, that I will have to actually mash some of this text that's upcoming. Some other changes some very big changes that they made from the very first game in the series into the second game is you can now basically, at least on easy and normal mode, run into enemies at really any angle. As long as you are the one running into the enemy, you will do damage to them and you will not take any damage in return. If an enemy bumps into you, on the other hand, they will deal damage, and also enemies now have attack animations that they do that will deal damage to you without being able to really retaliate. And for the most part, it's not that big of a deal, because when you hit enemies, you knock them out of you kind of stun lock them out of being able to attack you. However, some enemies are able to fire shots at you from a range, and we picked up the Rod of Divinity, we touched that statue, and now we have magic. So we are good to progress into the mines now that we're high enough level to fight the enemies. I usually just fight this golem for a little bit of extra experience and money. We need to be at a certain level and have a certain amount of money by the time we fight the next boss. So it's just good to pick up a little bit extra here, since we'll need to be grinding for it later anyway. But now we can, once again, as I said, go into the mines. This is the first main dungeon of the game, and it is kind of... One thing you'll notice from the start is that all of the dungeons in East 2 are a lot more complex than those in the first game. This first mine is a lot more maze-like, has a lot more intricate areas, and is just in general a lot longer. Luckily, it doesn't take too long to kind of memorize where you're going, what you're doing, so it's not too big of an issue. You also, while we're going through these mines, trying to find the doctor and kill the monsters within, we also need to drop off all 6 books of Ys to the statues of the 6 sages, who are the ones that wrote the books originally. And in doing so, we will actually speak to the spirit of each of these 6 priests, and they will give us a little bit of a tidbit on what's going on, either some background story on the world, what's happening, or even advice to progress. That there was Priest Tova. He tells us that in order to be able to vanquish the darkness, we'll need to acquire the magic of all 6 of the sages. And he's mostly right. There are, again, 6 spells in the game. We will be getting 5 of them. Also, that wall that we just broke, we picked up a Maddock, we break that wall open, and that's where the doctor is. However, we don't need to talk to him. If you free him and then you beat the boss of the dungeon, he will actually just go back to his home, and you can talk to him later. It's a little faster to do there, because you can combine that scene with a couple other things. Also, this is Priest Dabby. I don't have my webcam turned on, so you can't see the fact that I just dabbed, but there you go. Yeah, so we freed the doctor. Now we have to continue on our quest to get some magic and fight the enemies and fight the demons in this mine. I will use the term monsters and demons kind of interchangeably as I go. However, here we will acquire our first magical spell, and by far the most useful, the fire magic. This gives us a nice projectile that we can shoot in conjunction with running in with bumper carring into enemies to be able to deal much more damage much quicker. And it is going to be essential for fighting the bosses in this game, because of plot reasons, all the bosses kind of have a magical shield around them that protects them from being killed by a sword. As I was saying about magic, there are 6 spells in the game. The fire is the first of them. We will only be picking up 5 of them. One of them is very out of the way and completely useless. And then we will only really be using like 4 of them in general. One of them we have to pick up for one puzzle that is later in the game. And then the other ones will get used a lot more. It's just... fire is by far the most useful of all of them. So here we're fighting this one enemy because he gives us 20 experience points per kill. I actually didn't need to do that. He gives us 20 experience points per kill, which is the most of any enemy in this mine, and we have now hit level 12, which is kind of the threshold level that we need to hit in order to be sure that we have enough money in order to buy a better weapon once we get out of these mines. It also allows us to do a lot more damage to the upcoming boss, which is very, very nice in general. Unlike in the first game, where I had to change up my strats a little bit because of the nature of this marathon having no glitches, this run is completely glitchless. And as such, I will basically be going about this game kind of as just if I was going for a PB normally, except I'll be saving a lot more because death actually matters in a marathon. You can't just reset the game. Yeah. Now that we have done all that, though, we are good to proceed in and fight the first boss of this game, Vela Gunder, who is kind of a jerk. All the bosses in this game are much more complex than the first game. And this boss is kind of, you're able to determine what he does based on your positioning. The way you kill this boss, you have to fire fireballs into his body when his hands are open. The issue is that the way in order to get his hands to actually open up is kind of obnoxious sometimes. It doesn't work all of the time. That fight was alright. You can see I lost a little bit of time there, just from a little bit of bad positioning on my part, a little bit of just bad luck in general on how he decided to move. It's not too big of a deal. Yeah, you have to land shots in his body, and eventually he just falls. Here we pick up some iron ore, which we can sell for 3,000 gold to the swordsmith. He mentions that they're low on resources because of the fact that the mine has been closed for so long. And so he's willing to pay a lot of money for any ore you can provide, which will, once we have acquired 2,000 gold here, killing some enemies, will allow us to purchase the tier 3 sword, skipping completely over the tier 2 sword, the Talwar, which will allow us to... which will get us through basically the first half of the game. We'll pick up the tier 4 sword briefly, and then we'll, get the tier 5 and 6 swords later, but we will be running the Talwar for most of the game. But we have enough gold, which is excellent, and we pick up an evil bell. It will be important later. And now we're good to run to the end of the mine to pick up the second magical spell, which is light magic. It allows you to see in the dark, which would be really useful for this section, but whatever. It allows us to see in the dark. It also allows us to... There's the new wing menu, by the way, that lets you warp wherever you've been. Yeah, light magic lets us see in the dark. It also lets you see hidden passages. It's how you're supposed to know that you can go up into the wall to grab the evil bell and that iron ore. But it also allows us to grab an item later on in the game that'll be very important. So yeah, here we sell the ore, we buy the Talwar, and our attack stat will go up by a lot, which is important because we're about to just kill a ton of enemies right here. And really, this is like only one of 2 shops, one of 2 or 3 times we actually buy items. That item store is completely useless now, by the way, for the record. Because we're about to get the third magic, which is return magic, which allows us to actually have a wing whenever we want at the cost of 20 MP, which is very, very nice. Saves us the money of having to just constantly buy wings. Also, yeah, there we find the doctor's made it safely, and he's like, oh, yeah, the mine's collapsed, but then I happen to have a way open. Oh, you saved me. Great, what did you want? And you give him the letter, and he's like, oh, no, I have to save Lilia. I need these items. Oh, wait, you already grabbed these items? Great, I'll make the medicine right away. So we get the medicine, we take it back to Benoa. She's like, thank you so much for saving Lilia's life. Lilia overhears us and is like, oh, I didn't know I was dying or that you just risked your life to save me. Thank you. And now Lilia's willing to take the medicine, which hopefully will result in her life being spared. And as we can see from this little magical flourish thing, it works. Works so well, in fact, she says she feels like she could run a marathon, which even I don't think I could do at this point in my life. So that's cool. Again, get the return magic. Now we don't ever have to worry about getting a wing ever again, which is great. And we also get a free level from doing that. Just like in the first game, when you complete some quests or some objectives, you get items. I also need to equip the Talwar, that's important. You are, when you complete certain tasks, you're given experience points, which will usually amount in free level, which is one less level you have to grind. Unlike in the first game, you actually have kind of a progressive leveling system, where levels will not give you as big of a bonus in your stats, but they will still make a huge difference in general, as you have to be level... We'll end up finishing this run at about level 50. So we go to this person named Gila, and they're like, oh yeah, so there is monsters in I keep hearing this weird noise in my basement. Can you check it out? And so by checking it out, that means we're using the evil bell we grabbed in the mine to blow a hole in her wall, or in his wall rather, and spawn all of these enemies. Now this is required in order to, or do it in this version of the game, this is required in order to beat it. But even if it wasn't, it would be worth it to grind here for a while, because it's a very, very quick way to spawn a lot of enemies and gain a few levels, which is excellent. It is also very dangerous, that is why I saved before it, because this is really the first spot where you're in danger of just dying straight up, because these knights do a lot of damage, and again, you are intended to have some sort of armor here that I have not picked up any of, because I am cheap like that. But you just have to run back and forth, killing these enemies as quickly as possible. And ideally, you will kill the last enemy as you are near the top of the screen, so hopefully that's all of them. Yep. And now we just have to kill 2 enemies in this room. And that will give us another text box, letting us know that we have killed all of the demons in the basement. And we are able to deliver the last book of Ys to Priest Fact, who is kind of the head of the priests. And he lets us know, hey, you need to go to the Solomon Shrine, which is this really important area, and stop all of the demonic activity that's going on there. And I'm gonna open the door so you can kind of start your journey there. Also, anytime you talk to these priests, you get a full heal. That is worth noting. And now we will be on our way to the shrine. It's not as direct as the game makes it sound. You have to pass through 2 quite lengthy areas in order to get there. First of which and these areas are all just really meant to show off how different in environments this game is compared to the first game. The first game, you had some ruins, you had a mine, you had a tower, and that was about it, and we've already really seen ruins in a mine. So now they're just going to start mixing things up a lot more. And this first area, as you see, is actually going to be an icy mountaintop. However, we do have a cutscene first. And this cutscene introduces the man, the myth, the legend, Dalles, who is the main bad guy of this game, who is watching us very creepily, noting that he was actually in control of Dark Fact, the villain from the first game, though he is actually an underling to a mysterious evil force right there that you see that we'll become more introduced to later. However, here we are in the second major area of the game, the Ice Ridge of Nultia, or Nultia, Nultia, however you choose to pronounce it. And our first objective here is to kind of progress to the end of the area, picking up some items as we go. This area is much more linear than the first one was, however, we do have to do some backtracking to pick up some important items. First of all, we have to pick up this item, the Blizzard Bulb. Doing so will allow us to create a bridge of ice in a earlier area. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Also, there's a lot of just dead ends in this area. It's kind of a pain in the butt to navigate sometimes. And you see any of these weird looking stairways that kind of look all slick and icy. We can't run up them yet. We need an item. And that's kind of our ultimate goal of this first visit to Nultia, is to pick up the stone shoes, which will allow us to run up these ice ridges, which we'll then have to backtrack into this area to pick up an item that's kind of near the beginning that will allow us to fight the boss. So here, we use the Blizzard Bulb to create a bridge right here, and proceed onward to the second part of this area. And despite everything I'm kind of having to explain here, this overall is, no pun intended, a very chill area. It's definitely the calm before the storm as far as this game is concerned, because once I get to the third area of the game, it's just gonna be the game will be just straight up going to war with me and trying to kill me in the worst ways imaginable. However, I do want to be killing enemies as I go. There are a couple spots in this game where I have to grind for levels, though for the most part, especially early on, I am able to just kind of get my levels as I go. So there I picked up an item. It's called the Hawk Idol. It is very, very important for progression. What it does is it allows me to... it allows my shots, my fireball shots, to be homing, more or less, on enemies. Right there, we have to destroy that ice. It has a lot of health for some reason. Don't know why. Right here, we get the Ultra Magic that turns us into a... basically turns us into a Rue, which is a type of monster that kind of are good, but they've been like kind of tainted by darkness, so to speak, so that they look evil. There we pick up an item that will give us a little bit of MP because we do expend a lot in this area just trying to shoot up enemies as much as we can. But we do run in here, and we pick up an herb. Herbs will restore 50 HP, which ideally through the run I won't need to use any, though I have had times where I've had to use all 3 that we pick up. Here, like I said, we get the stone shoes. This will allow us to use return magic, go back to Lance Village, and then we use the marl flower that we picked up, and then we equip the stone shoes. That, again, will allow us to, at the beginning, to run up those icy slopes and pick up an item that will let us get to the boss. And it is much faster to just warp back to Lance Village than it would be to walk all the way back. Take the stairs. Now that we are back at Nulsha, we will now run over here. My movement through this area is a little interesting. There's probably a better way to go through this area. I just haven't been able to figure it out yet, but the way I take is good enough for what I need to do. So, kill a couple more enemies. I need to be level 20 by the time I fight the next boss, which isn't really an issue. Like, I've never had a time where I haven't been 20 by the time I get to the next boss. So here we get the anti-illusion mirror, which is the item that we need in order to access the next boss fight. Because if you take the stone shoes and go to the next door, then the game will be like, oh, there's a door that's not real. Not sure what to do with it, but it's there and it's not real, and that's about it. But this allows us to be able to distinguish what is and is not real, and will allow us to reveal the real boss door, which is what we need to do. And so, just have to take a little bit of time to backtrack over here. Again, this area is really nothing too challenging, too difficult. It is very much meant to be the calm before the storm that is the next area of the game, which we will cross that bridge when we get to it, because it is actually the part of the game that I dread the most whenever I do any sort of run. So I should get my level off of these giant enemies right here. Get a little more experience because it doesn't hurt. Because I want to have as many levels going into the next... or I want to have as much experience going into the next area as I can. Killing the boss will give me a guaranteed level. However, it would be nice if I could end up being close to reaching the next level after that, just to speed things up. So yeah, we equip the anti-illusion mirror, use it here. It gets rid of the old door and opens this door to the real boss, which is Tiamat. And this boss is a bit of a doozy sometimes. So he can jump around as much as he wants. He spams these ice in kind of random patterns. This is actually a pretty good fight. Whoops. I say as I completely whiff. The homing shot, the homing capabilities of the Hawk Idol aren't perfect. So you'll just occasionally have shots just fly right around enemies if your positioning isn't perfect. It's usually not too bad, though. And here we have the worst area in the entire game, I'd argue in the entire series. The Moat of Burn Bless. It's an area. The best way I can describe this area is that it is about as it is as it looks. And here we find a hidden Rue village. These are the creatures that Adol can turn into, and you can actually talk to them here if you so choose, but I'm not going to at the moment. But I need to go in there to pick up an item and also to set a warp point that will be very important later. One other feature the light magic has is that you can use it in this area. These lizard enemies can actually go invisible, and the light magic will reveal their location, which you can also reveal their location by blasting them with fire magic, so, you know, it's kind of pointless. But either way, really trying to kill as many enemies as I can as I go through here. I want my level... I won't have a problem hitting level 26, which is the level that I need for the next boss fight. That's not the issue. The issue is that there's some enemies that are coming up that I really want to be a high enough level to deal with quickly. And the more enemies I can kill, the faster I can get to that point. These are the enemies. These are my second least favorite enemies in the game, rather. They look very similar to the scorpions in the first game, except they're more obnoxious because I can't stop their movement. They take a lot of damage, they deal a lot of damage, and they're just not fun to deal with. They do give a good amount of experience, though, so I am going to kill all of them that I run into. However, these enemies, these armadillos, are in fact the worst enemies in the entire game. Whoops. They deal a lot of damage. Their damage they deal is equivalent to the scorpions. They also take about 1 million more damage. I don't even think I can hurt them at this point, which stinks. And there will be an upcoming section where you kind of just have to deal with a lot of them, and you just kind of have to hope they get out of your way. So, again, got a level. Every level helps. We're going to turn into a Roo here and talk to this bridge dude. If you talk to the people around here, they are kind of hostile to Adal, actually. And then if you talk to this bridge keeper as a Roo, he reveals that Dalles, the main villain, has actually kidnapped the son of the bridge keeper and is holding him is basically being like, alright, you better not lower that bridge for this red-headed dude named Adal, or I will, like, kill your son. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I don't want my son to die, and so us being the very nice people we are, offer to rescue his son. And so he gives us an item, the Whisper Earrings, to locate his son. And what he doesn't tell us, when we accept this quest, is that his son is probably the single most obnoxious NPC individual on the face of the planet. His son, Tarf is his name, is my least favorite character in the entire East series, which, I mean, there's not a lot of competition for that spot, but Tarf gets it by a landslide, even if there was. If you saw my run of the first game, you remember there was a section where I had to escort Fina through a shrine in order to get her safe. Also, this is the worst screen in the game. You have 2 of these armadillo enemies you don't really deal much damage to, and they can just block you forever. However, this room's also really scary because you want to kill as many of these lizards as you can, and these armadillos just really like getting in your way. Like it's about to happen. There we go. That actually wasn't too bad. We will have to escort Tarf back to the village in what is already probably the most dangerous area of the game, which would be fine if Tarf's AI was even half as good as Fina's was. Unfortunately, the nicest way to put it is to say that Tarf is an idiot. And you'll see what I mean very shortly. First, though, we have to run up here and grab this item. This is a Black Pearl. It'll be important later, trust me. It also spawns these enemies in that like to shoot at us. These are the first enemies that have projectiles they can fire at you, which you don't want to get hit by because they deal a lot of damage. And let's still try to kill more enemies. Again, the more levels I can get now, the better. There's not really an experience run I have to worry about. Like, you'll always end up being the right level. You'll basically always be 26 by the time you fight Galaldi, unless you're completely skipping enemies, which would be understandable. Alright, and we equip the Whisper Earrings right here, and walk up to this crack, and we're able to hear Tarf on the other side of the wall. And he's like, hey, I'm in a cage with this demon dude who can actually speak English. And he wants an item called the Black Pearl, which will give him the power to break us out. So because we have the Black Pearl, we can give it to them, and the plan will work. Keith will simultaneously break these rocks open to allow us into the cell, and then break the bars on the other side to allow them to exit. which will then start the most obnoxious part of this game, and definitely the most dangerous. Luckily, like in the first game, as I've shown off, you can save anywhere you want, which makes it a little safer. It's just frustrating, especially if you're trying to go for a PB. I'm not. I'm just doing this for, so you can see what a run of this game is like. However, I am actually on a kind of good pace right now, so I would like to not lose it here. But either way, the demon, whose name was Keith, it's a very interesting name for a demon to just be named Keith, but whatever. We offer to escort Tarf home, and the fun begins. So, you'll notice I waited a really long time before I actually went... Oh no, Tarf, come on. You'll notice I waited a really long time before I went through that door. That's because unlike Fina, where if she was off screen, but just, only slightly, she would still follow you through transitions. That's not so with Tarf. Tarf, sometimes even if he's literally standing right next to you, he just won't follow you through doors. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense, and it's really frustrating. Because they actually spawn these enemies in really awful spots. Like that scorpion there. So he spawns about here-ish. Which, if I were to leave the room before Tarf were to follow me, is where Tarf would be. And Tarf dies in 2 hits from literally anything. So that would be bad. Also, Tarf gets stuck on literally every piece of geometry that has ever been created. As you can see. Tarf, move! And sometimes he just gives up and sits there, and it's frustrating. So yeah, this is probably the part of the run that tilts people the most when they play this game, but, that's it. Once we actually get to this screen, we can just run on ahead because it's a safe area. Yeah, that was a Tarf escort. All things considered, it actually went pretty well. Definitely have had it gone worse. Anytime Tarf doesn't die is pretty good. Yeah, we rescue him, and his dad's like, "Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry that I was not accommodating to you earlier. Obviously, you're the good guy." And so they're going to lower the bridge for us. And we get a free level from that. We actually will get 2 free levels from that because of how close my experience was. And as you can see, I'm now level 26, which is what I need to beat the next boss. I'm, again, still going to fight enemies on the way to the boss just to make sure my EXP lines up. Especially since I don't quite have enough money right now. I need to have 8,000 gold by the time I beat the boss in order to be able to buy the tier 4 sword, which is very important. So yeah. However, I'm also going to use one of the 3 herbs that I have picked up because that's... I want to be as high HP as I can be for the boss. So yeah, just killing these enemies just for the little bit of extra resources. Here's another fire enemy. Any of these enemies that are on fire or made of lava are actually obviously, or are surprisingly, realistic in the sense that you cannot kill an enemy that is on fire by shooting fireballs at them. Who'd have thought? But yeah, we now have enough money. As I said, it's never really a problem as long as you're level 26 by the time you fight Golaldi, which is what you want to be anyway. You won't have an issue. I'm still again going to try to kill as many of these enemies as I can on the way, just to be safe. There we go. There's another scorpion here. I'm just gonna kill him for spite, because I'm a spiteful human being sometimes. And there we go, saving, and here, sensitive content warning. This is a Golaldi. He's horrifying, as you can tell. He's also the most tricky boss fight in the game. That was pretty bad. Alright, so the way this boss works is you can only hit him when his mouth is open. His mouth only opens to either summon or dismiss this worm. And ideally you want him to be in a position that you can hit him in the mouth. Ooh, that was a really bad one. Ideally you want his position to be such that he will be in the corner when he launches it, and so you can get, and the worm will be on the opposite side of the screen from him. Oops, ooh, that was close. That way it will take a lot longer for the shot, or for the worm to get to him, and you can just pepper him with more charge shots. Kind of like that. That was actually a really good cycle. Of course, the longer this fight goes, the less MP you'll have, the longer it will take for you to be able to charge up shots. What I'm doing there whenever I just am shooting at him like that is that I'm actually is that he moves slightly every time you hit him, especially with the charge shot. And so I'm trying to get him to be in that corner right there, and then have him open his mouth, when the worm is in that corner like that. And if I do it right, I can get a bunch of shots into his mouth like that every single time. Sometimes he just doesn't cooperate because of the way that the Hawk Idol shot fires. Kind of works weird. Also, when he gets to low health, he summons this kind of like mini-me enemy. That's kind of frustrating that you have to kill in order to actually really be able to deal damage to. Otherwise, he'll just be in really bad spots every single time. However, I was able to kill him relatively fast, and I should be able to get him down in 1 or 2 more cycles, provided nothing stupid happens. Knocking on wood, because something stupid happens in this fight very often. There we go. It is a lot harder to land shots when his mouth is summoning the worm, but if you can, then that just makes the fight go oh so much faster. Okay. I don't think I'll be able to get him. Yeah, no, because now I'm at the point that I'm not getting as much, or I'm having to wait between charge shots, which is unfortunate. Try to get him in the corner still. Okay. Alright, this should be the last cycle, though. And this worm will kill you, like, instantly if it catches you, by the way. So you want to be very, very careful of it. There we go, that's Galadi. And also, for some reason the room flips in perspective, so you have to make sure to hold down once you leave that room, otherwise you just go back into the boss room. And yeah, that was Galadi, that was Burn Bless, that was really the scariest part of the run. Taken care of relatively in a good manner. Actually, I don't think I took any damage on that fight, which is... Ideally, you don't want to take damage on it, because damage stacks up very, very quickly on it. But either way, here we have Zalem, who is the swordsmith, who will be selling us the tier 4 sword. We'll finally be getting rid of the tier 3 sword that has gotten us through the last couple areas. Still won't be buying armor, though. And we now have the Hyper Cutter, which is great. And here, yeah, we're at Ramia Village, or in the Japanese version, it's actually Lamia Village, which makes a little more sense, but it's whatever. And we talked to this dude, his name is Gorto, who is the guard to the entrance of the shrine, which the shrine is being controlled by the demons and by Dalles and his henchmen. And he tells us this story that his friend, his name is Sada, whose fiance got captured to be some sort of sacrifice to the demons in order to summon their, like, demon lord dude, who stormed his way into the shrine and told Gorto not to let anyone else in. However, Gorto, knowing that, you know, Adol is the guy that all the bad guys are looking for, you know, that probably means he's a big deal. So he's like, okay, yeah, I'll let you go into the shrine if you talk to Sada's dad and let him know what's going on. So we have to talk to this classy lumberjack-looking gentleman by the name of Hadat, who's like, hey, if you want to go into the shrine, then here, take this useless shell. Casually, you can use the shell to get hints about where to go, what to do within the shrine. However, if you know where you're going, it's basically useless, and it will get used exactly once, not by me, by the by Hadat to tell us a very unimportant message later on. However, now we have gained access into the shrine. However, first we need to become very cute, turn into a Rue, in order to not get blocked by these guys, who are the strongest enemies in the game, by the way. The Gatekeepers, the Zerots, and as a Rue, we're like, hey, so I know I'm just like a cute little Rue guy, but I actually killed Adol, and I can prove it because here's all of his equipment. And they're like, oh, great, sounds good to me. Well, you should probably go tell Zava, the Dallas' kind of second in command, about this, and lets us know where she is. We should probably go and arrange a meeting with this Zava individual. And by meeting, a meeting of our sword with her face, because that's how we roll. However, first we need to acquire a bunch of items in order to do so. First on our list of items. Also, I'm killing enemies as I go here, same reason as before, it's just a lot easier because I have the Hawk Idol. First up on our items is actually a pass that will allow us to show it to a guard, and he'll let us move further as a Rue. A lot of this first area is just getting an item or a password in order to be able to get to more areas of the shrine. So now we turn into a Rue, and we talk to this kind of secretary demon that gives us the pass, which we can now move forward. Also, if I were to continue to be a Rue, none of these enemies would attack me, and they would actually talk to me and have some pretty comical lines. However, I want to actually kill the enemies because I need the experience. Also, being a Rue does drain your magic. It's not notable, but it ends up being about the same magic drain as just killing the enemies, and killing enemies is more worth it because you level up. And I would like it if my shots would actually focus down one enemy instead of what they're doing currently. Alright, so we turn into a Rue here, talk to this guard, he sees the pass, he lets us in. And now that door is going to be permanently open for us. So here we are in the section where the meeting is happening between the generals of Dalles. And we are going to kind of listen in on them to get a password to go elsewhere. There we go. So we listen to this dialogue here. They kind of talk about the situation, what's going on. Apparently a bunch of the captives that were going to be sacrificed have escaped, and they are hiding out in another section of the shrine. However, that section is locked by a password that we, until now, do not know because they say the password. So now we know the password is Mika. I believe that's the password. It becomes the first option automatically once you hear it. So you can just kind of go into it. Also, I should just warp back. That's faster. I always forget that. Yeah, we can go through. Also, they are like, wait, how are you here if you were already there? It's also really funny, if you unmorph before you leave the screen, sometimes they realize that you're Adol and they chase after you. Which, if it actually happened and they chased after you, that'd be very dangerous. Because like I said, they're the strongest normal enemies in the game. Yeah, here, turn back into a Rue. Tell this dude the password. Yeah, it's the first option, Mika. And we are able to proceed forward. So there's an item I need to grab, and this is the one reason why we pick up the light magic. If I did not need to pick up the... If this item was not locked the way that it is, we would not need the light magic at all. So we just have to kind of run through here, through Dabby's sector, and activate the light magic, and it shows us this little cup here that we pick up. It'll be very important later. Great. And now we can run back through and go try to meet up with the runaways, because they'll probably know something that can help us out. Also, yeah, the way this game handles like levels as up and down is kind of weird. Yeah, so we go in here, and first we'll access into the sewers, and we are met face to face with Dalles, who's like, hey, I suggest you don't go that way. But we're like, nah, dude. He's like, fine, I'll curse you. And he does so by making us incredibly cute. He's like, aha, now you're cute. You can't do anything now. Ha ha ha. However, we still are given our full range of abilities, except for the fact that people think that we're a demon now, so we can't actually make contact with the runaways. However, we do need to actually go to their hideout. That way I can warp back there later, because it is a town. Or is an important area, rather. And still trying to kill these enemies as we're going through. Every little bit helps. Every level we get is one level we won't have to grind later, because we have to be level 38 by the time we fight the next boss. Which is a little bit of a... Also, that's the warp point? Yes. Cool. Ideally, you do not want to trigger a cutscene that would trigger there if you were to walk further forward. But we talked to this old man. We're like, hey, squeak, 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 I've been cursed. And he's like, oh, man, that's a shame. Well, have I got good news for you. You see, I happen to have a magical shrine... magical well, rather, in my basement. It's like really special, and if you use this like this magical cup thing, you'll be able to be turned back into a human. Luckily, we happen to have a magical cup thing, and so we use his sketchy well to restore ourselves back to human form. Unfortunately, we will no longer be adorable. Adol will just have to, instead of being adorable, we'll just have to settle for being a sexy beast. But, I think that's fine with him. And we also get a full refill. This kind of becomes the place where you can go to fully restore your health for a little bit. It's really far out of the way, though, so I would ideally never go back there. And now, whoops, I'm forgetting the order of things that I'm mashing too much. There we go. We can now go to the Runaways hideout. Oh, that was silly. We go to the Runaways hideout, and this dude is like, hey, Lilia's here, and she jump scares us, because that's what all dependable people do. They jump scare you as you go down staircases. And she gives us the shrine key. And then Dalles is like, yo, thanks for showing me where the Runaways hideout is, bro. I'm gonna crash this party. And he crashes the party by stoning everyone. Good guy, Dalles. However, everyone's stoned now. We can't really do anything about that. So we're gonna go back into the shrine and kind of try to find a way to solve the issue using the key that Lilia gave us. And we're also going to do our level grind, the biggest level grind in the game, really. Also, I should use less MP than I am using, so I'm just going to kill this enemy and then leave it be. Ideally, the more MP I have for the next boss fight, the better. So I'm going to cut back on the crazy murdering of all these guys for a tiny bit. But we'll get to the longest grinding session in the game. That takes a couple of minutes, but it's not too big of a deal. It's also kind of the scariest portion of this shrine, because these enemies that we're going to be using to grind have a flamethrower attack that covers half the screen and basically shreds your health in less than a second. So I'm going to save. And it's these enemies, these Lamias, are the enemies we'll be grinding on. And again, like in the first game, every enemy spawns in the same location, but then their movement after that point is random. So ideally, what happens is that what the right one does is kind of irrelevant, but we want the left one to be moving towards us when we re-enter this area. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Like it to happen more often than not. Unfortunately, it is not looking like the enemy is going to behave this time. So yeah, I'll just be grinding for a bit, and then at the end of the grind, I need to run and grab an item that will allow me to proceed after the boss. There we go. There's a minor optimization I'm doing here, where if you go up a staircase and then immediately hit the opposite direction for a little bit, and then the direction you want to go in again, it lets you turn around immediately instead of, you'll notice there's sometimes where I actually kind of freeze at the entrance of a room. It kind of circumvents that somehow. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it saves about a half a second every time I'm able to get it correctly, which since you do this screen transition multiple times, half a second every time really adds up. I was doing it a bit earlier when I was in the mines killing that red enemy over and over again, but it wasn't as important because there was less of them. Also, the timing was different because in this case you're actually going back and forth between two different areas that the game has to load, as opposed to just going between two screens in the same area. So the timing's a little bit different. You have to wait a little bit longer before hitting the opposite direction. Also, getting some actually pretty good luck with these enemies. So yeah, ideally you see sometimes I'm like on this screen for a really long time, on the upstairs screen for a really long time. Otherwise, I seem to like warp right back to it. That was weird. That's because of I'm doing the little bit of movement there. Alright, so I only have now I only have one more level to get. I'm going to get most of the way to that level, and then I'm going to run and grab the item I need. Oops. Let's see. So, one more set. There we go. Now I just have one more I have to kill, which I will be able to kill on the way over there. This one right here. And we are good to go. Also, that's the Fire Breath attack. It's terrifying, as I said. There we get the Silver Pendant, which we need in order to use a Warp Point later. But now, we can go back to Ramia, turn back into a Rue, go through this gate again. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of dialogue every single time you go through. It's the same dialogue every time, except for one of the times later after a boss. But yeah, now we go into the center area of the shrine, and we are able to go fight the next boss in the game, Drugar. I'm going to save, because this fight can go a little bit wrong. So, when they were making this game, or when they were porting this game, they added in the charge shot ability. It was originally not in this game. And so then they changed a lot of the damage values that you do to bosses when you attack them in order to accommodate for that. However, I guess they forgot when they were remaking Drugar, because you deal the same amount of damage with charge shots as you do with regular shots, which is very important because otherwise this guy would have a lot of health and would just be very difficult to deal with. Also, one unfortunate thing about using the Hawk Idol for this fight is the fact that his little antenna that he has by his mouth actually have different hitboxes, and they can eat your shots. However, that was actually a pretty good fight. Yeah, that's the boss fight. We're all not too bad. But, whoops, I forgot to equip the... That's fine. They tell you that anyway. Have to equip the Silver Pendant in order to warp to the next section of the shrine. This next area is a little interesting to navigate, but yeah. Overall, Drugar's not that bad of a boss fight. It can be a little scary. His attacks do a lot of damage, especially since, again, I don't have any armor. And also, here is the one time the Lily Shell gets used. Hadat lets us know that Tarf is here to annoy us. And be useless later. That is Tarf's entire function in the game, is to be annoying. I mean, I guess he technically has a little more function than that, but it's basically he's annoying. Also, there's 2 guards you can listen to. They tell you about some item that's probably important. I don't know. But here we're actually going to pick up the first piece of armor in the game, the Battle Shield, which... In the last game, the Battle Shield was the best armor. It was the best shield in the game. This time it's the second best. This time they actually made the silver, or in this game, Claria armor, the best armor. So it's not like, I have this legendary armor, but it's weaker than something else, but I still need it to beat a boss fight. Also, more invisible enemies. No big deal. We have to run through here to get an item from Keith. Same dude from earlier. And then we will have to backtrack somewhere else to get another item. And yeah, there's Keith, and he's like, oh, yo, you helped me. Thanks, dude. Here, take this key. And we're like, thanks, bro. Now we go back to the Runaways hideout because the key opens a door that's back in this first area of the sewers. Also, no, we're good. I actually was smart in doing this. So, yeah, just having to backtrack all the way back through this area. This little section here, these sewers are probably some of the easier areas to just get super turned around in because of how similar everything looks, like right there I just did. Even once you get it mapped out in your head, occasionally there'll just be times you just go the complete opposite direction. So yeah, that was where we need to use the key. And we flip this lever, which lowers the water in the sewers and also gives us a free level, which is excellent. Now I have to run back through here in order to take the stairs down to run through the now cleared section. And we'll also be picking up some more items that will be very important. So, oops, going this way. We go up here and we pick up the battle armor. We'll actually be getting it in this game. And that's the best defense that we're going to have. Those 2 items. I'm not going to equip them yet, though, because I'll wait till I get the battles. Swords, so that I can equip them all at once. Yeah, here we go. We're back in the area that we were in earlier. have to run over here. There's some more items I need to grab. They're very important to us and our adventure here. And in this room, we grab the battle sword. And now we'll do our massive equip, and you'll just see my defense stats skyrocket. So I can actually kind of take a hit from things now. Of course, now we're going to be going against some of the strongest enemies in the game that will, like, kill us very quickly anyway, so it kind of balances out. But we also do a lot more damage to things, which is excellent. And here we pick up the Falcon Idol, which is like the Hawk Idol, except better. By that I mean the shots are now like this light color, and they track a little better, plus when you shoot a charge shot at enemies, the shots will actually split up into groups. And here we'll be doing the last grind of the run, and it shouldn't be an issue. However, if things go wrong, they will go very poorly. So there's two enemies here. There's the knights and there's the mages. The mages are actually immune to, are actually completely immune to magic. However, the knights are hurt by it just normally. So what you want to do during this section is actually try to shoot the mages and then bank the homing shots off of them so that then they go to the knights. Also, we need to go into this area so that we can get a warp point so that we don't have to walk back here later. However, I do need to grind all the way up to level 45, or level 46 rather. 45 is kind of like the optimal level for it, but 46 works just as fun. 46 works a little better, and it makes the next boss after Zava a little safer. And by a little safer, I mean like actually like astronomically safer. And the boss is actually just in this building right here, which will be entering and exiting in order to respawn these enemies quicker. And again, this grind is pretty quick. Doesn't take too long to get up to level 46. Said we're already 43. And now we're actually at the point that we have some more defense and more strength so that we can deal with these enemies faster, and we don't really have to worry about taking like 1 million damage from getting hit, which is good. See, I shoot a charge shot at that enemy before running up so I can aggro him onto, or be sure to get him onto me, so I don't have to go looking for him. Because sometimes they can just walk in the opposite direction because they feel like it. Unless the enemy AI is specifically locked onto you, they'll just kind of go wherever they want to go. Right now, story-wise, what we're actually doing is we find out that Sada's fiance, the one that he came in here to rescue, is about to be sacrificed in this area called the Campanile of Lane, and that Zava is standing guard over her. So we need to, once we are powered up, run into the Campanile, take care of Zava, and hopefully save the damsel in distress, which I'm about ready for. Just a couple kills off, I should kill this guy, and then this knight, and that'll be now this knight over here, and will get me a level 46. Excellent, excellent. And we're ready to go fight Zava. I'm gonna save really fast. And here we are, formally meet Zava face to face. Just kind of the mother of all of these demons. The mother or queen of all these demons, depending on which version of the lore you pay attention to. And this fight begins first off with us having to kill a couple of waves of these little bat enemies. They are only hurt by magic, and sometimes they can be kind of set in a just random direction. Also, this game decides to become a curtain fire shooter for this boss fight, and for the next boss fight. As you can see, just bullets everywhere. Yeah, ideally, what happens is that I'm able to hit them with the charged Falcon Idol, and then the little bits of the charged shot will hit them as many times as possible. Sometimes that happens, other times the shots just go in random directions and don't hit anyone. Or they target Zava, who's currently impervious to our shots. There we go. We're almost done with this phase. Just a couple more. After we kill these two, we'll be able to begin the actual fight and target Zava herself. There is still a bat that's flying around, however, we actually don't want to target it because it doesn't matter. It's just there to waste our time, pretty much. However, that's the Zava fight. We get another level from that, and we are ready to try to save Maria. So here she tells us, like, oh no, as soon as the bell strikes 5 times, which it just struck once, as soon as the bell strikes 5 times, I'm gonna sacrifice. You should get out of here before all the demons just go crazy and kill everyone. However, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna try to save her. We gotta get up to the top of this tower in time, otherwise she dies. Should be bad. So we have a couple of these rooms to just run through. It's very tense, very extreme music that's going on here. I don't know why I forgot the word music. It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, you know, we gotta hurry. Oh no, there's a second bell. You know, but we're more than halfway there. I think we're gonna make it, guys. And girls. And everyone else. I think we're gonna make it. You know. Alright, we're almost there. Oh, there's the third time. We gotta do this. We're so close. We're so close to being able to make it. Just gotta run up these stairs. Alright, we're in the last section. There's 4. I think we're gonna make it. Alright, and here's Dalles. Alright, we gotta stop whatever he's gonna do. And he's gonna taunt us. Come on, Adel, you gotta act. You only have 1 ring left. Looks like the bell's priming to ring. You gotta do something, man. You gotta do it. Can't let her die like this. And unfortunately, that section's scripted. The bell actually tolls at the same spot every time. And bad things are happening. Which, basically, it's hard to tell what actually is happening here. Basically, Dalles is just like, yeah, bad things are happening. My master will soon return. And you're like, what? Basically, what that amounts to is that part of the reason why the Kingdom of East is floating in the sky is to keep it away from an item called the Black Pearl, which isn't the same Black Pearl as the one that we were using earlier. The smaller one is actually a replica of it. But the Black Pearl is entombed in kind of by where we fought Vagulian in the first game. There was an area in his room. There was like another door there that was sealed that we couldn't get anywhere with. And that's kind of where the Black Pearl is kind of entombed. And that's the item that is currently like sealing away the big bad guy. However, with ringing that, it actually breaks the spell that's keeping the East suspended in the air, and it will come crashing down, and it will allow the bad guys to gain access to the Black Pearl and break the seal, which is pretty bad stuff. So we go there, we talk to the goddesses, who look oddly familiar. I wonder why that could be. And they tell us that we need to find the Black Pearl to insert it into the Dreaming Idol to allow it to basically cure everyone's petrification. Luckily, you know, Tarf has the Black Pearl, right? Not right. Tarf has a hole in his pocket, and he dropped it. He dropped the single most important item to the, you know, the saving of the people of this land, because he has a hole in his pocket. Tarf is completely useless. Also, the dialogue changes here. They're like, hey, by the way, the meeting's over. You're like, great, which is supposed to be kind of your hint as to where the Black Pearl is. It's back in that meeting room we saw earlier. Also, now the music has changed in this area to a song called Battleground that is phenomenal. The original Shrine music is amazing as well. But, yeah, that song was just called Palace of Solomon. This song is called Battleground. Both phenomenal tracks. They really kind of reflect the mood of the areas that they play in, or the times that they play in the same area. Yeah, so we have to go back to the meeting room to grab the Black Pearl. It's just right in here. I need to... Whoops. We re-obtain the Black Pearl, and we go back to the Goddess's Palace so that they can combine the two. again, this text that is popping up on the screen that doesn't have a text box. Well, that one I can hold, but this kind of have to actually mash through. And talking to the goddesses does give you a full heal, which is nice. And now we must run back to the top of the campanile in order to access, or in order to use the Dreaming Idol to save the people and remove the petrification. Turns out petrification is a really hard word to say quickly. Yeah, we're back in the campanile. Also, whenever you re-enter a boss room, the doors close, so you have to wait for these doors arbitrarily. It's whatever. Also, Maria is gone. Must have really got disintegrated or something. Oops. Yeah, unfortunately, there's really no, like, you just have to walk to the top of this tower. There are some small optimizations you can do to move quicker, like if you can remember which room comes when, you can start moving in the correct direction as the room is spawning in, and the game will let you do that. Sometimes it's hard to remember. Usually it's safe to just hold up, except for those two rooms where you move sideways. I don't know why I went to the right there. Yeah, you can just run up here. Get to the tippy top. Make sure you're standing kind of on the center of the platform, because otherwise this scene just doesn't trigger. It's weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, with that, we have now saved everyone, and I'm going to warp back to the Goddess's Palace in order to grab a very, very important item, without which beating this game will not be possible. After storming through some more of these enemies. So like I said, navigating these sewers can be kind of difficult sometimes, and this is like the one area where I like really get turned around when I try to go through. I think I went the right way though, so we're good. Yeah, I went the right way that time. For some reason, just this one room is kind of hard to remember where to go in, but this puts us back in the Lamia room, and we can go back up and over here, and around, bring it around town. I went the wrong way. We have to go back all the way up through here, kind of back to the beginning of the area, and then continue forward in order to get something that's in the back corner of this room area thing. I went the wrong way. No, I went the right way. We're good. It's hard to remember where you're going sometimes when you're going through here. Yeah. Equip this, and we find Sada here, who has this giant sword on his back. But turns out the sword is, well, as we talk to him, we tell him, oh yeah, by the way, your fiancé got sacrificed to the demons. He's like, well, I have no reason to have this anymore, and so he just gives us a Claria sword. It's the strongest sword in the game, and he's like, yeah, you should go avenge my girlfriend now. And you're like, cool, I'll do that. Also, these people have been saved, and we have to talk to all of them. And they're like, hey, I overheard some stuff. Yeah, we've crashed back into the surface, which is kind of cool. Also, Lily is missing, because of course she is. And thanks for saving us, guide. And then Keith shows up, and he's like, yo, what's up? My name's Keith. And everyone's terrified, but they're like, oh wait, no, Keith's a good guy. And he gives them a wing, which if you try to use a wing with multiple people at any time in the series, or in these first two games, it'll be like, oh, you can't use the wing because there's too many people. However, as you can see, very shortly, they're about to warp 5 people out of here. However, first, this dude gives us the gold pendant, which is the second warp item that we need in order to warp to where Dalles is currently. So we ourselves warp back to Ramia, and I'm gonna equip the Claria sword now before I forget. Turn into a Rue one last time. Well, actually, we'll be a Rue for like a split second later, but you get what I mean. And make our way onward to the final battle with Dalles. Also, I should probably equip the gold pendant. That might be good. Also, I'm not worried at all about my magic because The Claria Sword is kind of necessary to kill Dalles in the sense that he's actually immune to magic. So we need a holy weapon made of Claria in order to kill him, which Claria is what silver actually is in this series. It's the... When you talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, so monsters come from Claria, but Claria also has holy abilities to kill monsters, which is confusing. But here we have Dalles and the song Overdrive, which is my favorite battle theme in the game and in the series. And we also have a really scary boss fight. So, yeah, this fight, all of his attacks do 12 damage to you. If they hit you, they can hit you like a million times if they want to. And ideally, you will try to get 2 or 3 hits on him every single time he spawns in. It's hard. It's kind of difficult to get 3. You can potentially actually get 4. It's like frame perfect, though, and it's really hard to do. 3 is pretty easy if you can get him against a wall, though. And every time you get 3 hits on him twice, then you're able to skip a cycle. And this is really just the fight. This is the entire boss fight. It's just this over and over again. But it's still scary, because every time he hits you, it's 12 damage, and these meteors can actually literally just take like 100 health away if they feel like it sometimes. It's happened more times than I'd like to admit. Also, yeah, your magic's blocked here. Also, I'm making this boss look a lot easier than it really is. Just for reference. There's 3, nice. When I first started running this game, I would actually do, like, just drills on this fight, where I would literally just try to beat this boss fight, like, 5 or 10 times before I would do a run every time. And sometimes I'd be grinding this boss fight for, like, an hour, just trying to get 5 kills on him. That really only happened once, where it took me that many fights to get it, but... Either way, my point stands. Also, I'm a little terrified now, because at the pace I'm going, I can get 2nd place with this run. I currently have 3rd place behind 2nd place by 17 seconds. This run can actually PV and clinch 2nd. Implying nothing horrible happens. Hopefully it won't. Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier about the fact this run is pretty safe, and it also is... There's very little difference between when you're doing a marathon run and doing a normal run, other than just you're saving more often. Also, there's Tarf. That's his last thing that we will see him do. Oh, also Maria's alive, by the way. Turns out she was actually rescued by, I believe Keith actually saved her. Also, speaking of Keith, he breaks down a wall. He's being a wannabe Dogi. Yeah, we just continue to go through here. See Gorto there. He's like, hey, the wall's closed. Also, we have a jump scare coming up. There's something up ahead. Someone is just here. And Lilia. Also, the fact that, like, if you look, that picture of her is actually slightly terrifying. When it just, like, shows up, it's like, hello. And it's like, oh, hi. Also, we equip the Goddess's Ring. It allows us to break this barrier. It also boosts our stats a little bit, which is handy. And we go through here, and we warp to Vagulian's room. And we now can go through here and touch this door. And the Dark Lord himself, Darm, has captured the goddesses, who, yeah, they look very familiar. I don't think so, demon! And it's Gobin and our good friend Ludogema, who, so Ludogema is currently holding the silver shield from the first game, which after this scene I can talk to him and actually get the silver shield. You get it for the final boss. It's completely useless because we also picked up shield magic earlier on, and shield magic makes you invincible as long as you have a magic meter, and my magic meter won't run out during the fight. It will, but I have a Rhoda Fruit, which will restore my magic to full. Also, yes, Rhea and Fina, the girls from the first game, are actually the goddesses of Ys. Who, there's a lot of lore about how they're important and stuff, but yeah, they're actually goddesses. That's pretty cool. And they also imbue our sword with the power to destroy Darm. And so we are able to proceed forward, and we almost get a level up. The way the level up works, also we're going to jump across here, is Adalru, because why not? The way the, words. I just totally forgot what I was saying. Oh, the way that experience gain works is that it's supposed to get you up to level 50. However, if you are level 50, it won't give you another level. And here we go. This is the final boss fight against Darm. Time will be when I deal the last hit to him. However, this fight's like a minute long. So, Ooh, that's bad. Oh, wait, no, we're good. Kind of. That's unfortunate. So, you see there was that period of time where he was actually... And yeah, I'm completely invincible during this fight. You see that was that period of time where the screen flashes, and then there's that, like, red thing. Oh, my goodness. Are you kidding me right now? So there was that, like, little red wave that was around me and him for a little bit. So that is actually indicating that he's actually about to be stunned. And so that's our opportunity to just deal a lot of damage to him, you know, implying stupid things don't happen. He'll try to get out of the way of you whenever that happens, but there we go. That's phase 1 down. I'm going to equip the Rotafruit just in case, because I'm a little lower than I'd like to be. And it's time for the final phase of Darm. Things get a little bit scarier here, but it's all good. Also, he's just chilling. Alright. That was weird. So yeah, just gotta do more hits on him. He really likes lasers in this phase, so that's something to be wary of. Oh, please move. Are you kidding me? Alright, I'm popping the Rotafruit. As I said, gives you full stuff. Full health. Okay, there we go. That's where you want him to be. You want him to be able to be hit. His hitbox is really weird in this phase, where you... In the first phase, you were kind of able to... Okay, come on. There we go. In the first phase, you were kind of able to get stuck on him and deal, like, lots of hits in a row. In this phase, for some reason... That's time. Oh, that fight was awful. But, so, that's second place. By 3 seconds. And that fight was abysmal. Like, terrible. I just got really bad luck and my positioning was off, but still. That's East 2, and that's second place in a marathon submission run, so that's cool. Yeah, that was time. There's some text here where everyone's like, yay, you did it, you saved the world. Except you actually didn't kill him because now he's just sealed away again, and the goddesses are now going to go to sleep to make sure that he stays sealed away for however long. Also, because I didn't get the shield from Luda Gemma, he's still holding it. And you'll notice RMP got completely drained because magic no longer exists because we sealed away the Black Pearl. Also, it turns out Keith was actually a human and was actually the descendant of Priest Fact. So kind of like a long-lost, very, very long-lost cousin of Dark Fact, where his girlfriend got murdered and then he got turned into a monster, which is very tragic. That's literally all you hear of that story, though. Also, more talking. Yeah, they're like, yeah, after 700 years, the evil's been destroyed, but we're still going to go to sleep because the world doesn't need us anymore. That's actually more what happens. It's less that you sealed away the evil and more you just destroyed it, and so now they don't have a purpose. Because the world theoretically doesn't need the goddesses anymore. And then Maria's like, oh, I should probably go tell my fiancé that I'm actually not dead. That'd be good. And Rhea's like, thanks again. Oh, by the way, Fina kind of likes you, so you should let her off easy by the fact that she loves you, but she's kind of going to go away forever now. But it's okay, because Lilia also likes Adol. Because his life's not confusing or anything. But it's okay, because Adol's one true love is adventure. As we will see in every game in this series after this as well. Yeah, more text, and then eventually I'll let the credits roll, just kind of give the run some finality, and then I'll get this ready to submit. Yeah, this is my submission. My estimate will either be a 120 or a 122. It depends. But yeah, this is East 2. It's a lot of fun. It's a little more complex than the first game is because you have magic and the game's just, in general, like a lot longer. Also, Adol speaks. This is the one time he actually says anything in this game. And we have anime, but that's very loud, just a heads up. For some reason, the cutscenes are 10 times louder than anything else in this game. So, just a warning, this is about to get really loud once the music drops. At least it probably will. there's a weird audio glitch in this game where sometimes it will just forget to cap the volume on things. And so sometimes when that scene starts, it just forgets that you've adjusted the audio settings, and it will just blast at full volume. There's also enemies in this game that happens with too, where like those fire enemies in Burn Bless, if I were to shoot them with fire, they make like a screeching noise. And sometimes that screeching noise is at max volume, and it's actually kind of terrifying. Either way, that's East 2. Really fun game. The community, as far as like the number of runners we have for it, is a lot less than East 1. However, it's a very, very fun run. Again, there's a lot of people in the Discord that know about both the games that would be more than happy to help anyone who'd want to learn this. Again, you saw how far behind I was, and that just got second place. So there's a lot of really good, opportunities to be able to learn a run quickly and be pretty competitive in it too. Again, you can save anywhere, so completing a run really isn't an issue. Burn Bless is scary to learn, but it's not something that will really, it'll kill a lot of runs once you get serious with running it, but it's not anything that's gonna, stop you from being able to learn the game or anything. Also, my filler picture is right here. I like to call it Derpy Adolf because his eyes are actually slightly off-center. His right eye or left eye in the picture is, for some reason, just, not focused, and I think it's hilarious. Yeah, that's East 2. Wonderful game. So much fun. Just like the first game, one of the most influential and classic action RPGs ever made. And it would be an honor to run this at the marathon, just to show off this really big, a remade version of a very historically important game. Also, you get to see Ruse being adorable here, so what's not to love? Oh no, oh no, no! Also, that's the Sleepy Rue. I think that was, yep, that's the Sleepy Rue. You can talk to him and he'll actually be like, hey, yo, want to take a nap? And if you say yes, then you get a full heal. It takes time though, and I didn't need it at the time, so I can show it off, but yeah. Also, now Adol gets to date Lilia for a couple months until he decides to leave to explore Celceta. Because that's how he rolls. Because Adol Kristen fears no man or woman. Also, the goddesses are now back to holding the Black Pearl. Yeah, once again, that is East 2. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you for your consideration for running this in No Glitches Allowed. We now have this scene here with the goddesses and some Ruse, I think, or rats, or just really tiny Ruse. And once I go back to the title screen, I will cut the recording. So once again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.